Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the US soccer system. Everything you need to know before Messi gets to the US and starts playing. I think it's very important to know the league, all the competitions he's going to play in, some of the weird rules they have over here. So yeah, I'm just going to go over everything and yeah, let's get into it. Starting off with the pyramid of the leagues. Obviously, the first division, the most important division in the United States, is the MLS. That's where Inter Miami, LA Galaxy, it's where all the big clubs play and compete for the top spot, right? Under that, in the second division, we have the USL. And then lastly, in the third division, we have three leagues fighting for that spot. So we have the USL 1, we have the NISA, and then finally we have MLS Next Pro, which is a new league that they just implemented. And then anything below that is considered amateur football. So the main competitions Messi's going to be participating in are obviously the MLS, the US Open Cup, which is like any other cup in any part of the world. And then we have the CONCACAF Champions League, which is like the Champions League in Europe, but for North America. And finally, we have the Leagues Cup, which is basically an international tournament played just between teams in the MLS and the Liga MX, which is the Mexican league. Starting off, we have the MLS. The MLS is divided in two conferences, like in most sports in the US. This is because the travel distances between, Inter Miami and then LAFC is a lot. It's like if English teams had to travel all the time to Russia, it would just be inconvenient and tiresome for the players. So they decided to divide it in an Eastern and a Western conference. So Western teams mostly just play Western teams, and then Eastern teams mostly just play Eastern teams. In this case, Messi is going to play for Inter Miami, meaning he's playing in the Eastern Conference against teams like DC United, the Orlando City, New York City FC, New York Red Bulls, and like Atlanta United, a lot of big players in the MLS. The Eastern Conference has 15 teams, whilst the Western Conference only has 14. In one season, each team from the same conference faces each other twice, once as a home game and then as an away game. And then every team in one conference faces each team in the opposite conference once. At the end of the season, the team with the most points out of both conferences wins the Supporter Shield. Then the top 7 teams of each conference go into the playoffs, something very common in the US. So the playoffs are again divided by the same conferences, and the team that came first from each conference goes straight to the semifinals, whilst the 7th team plays the 2nd team, the 3rd team plays the 6th team, and then the 4th team plays the 5th team, and like that for both conferences. Then the winner of each conference plays each other in the MLS Cup final. And then the winner of this game is the champion of the MLS, and then also qualifies to the CONCACAF Champions, or the CONCACAF Champions League. This final is a single game that is hosted by the home team. The home team is determined by which team got the most points in the regular season. And if there's a tie after the 90 minutes, they go to extra time. And if there's still a tie in the extra time, there is penalties. And no, we don't have those fun like run-up penalties anymore. It's just regular. At this moment in time, only 9 teams have won the MLS. That's going to be LA Galaxy, who's won it the most. And then the last one to win it was LAFC. The next competition we're going to talk about is the US Open Cup. Like I explained before, it's like most other cups around the world. It's like the Copa del Rey in Spain. Every team from every professional tier in the US faces each other, whilst the top tier, the top division teams come in later in the competition. The bottom divisions compete against each other to see who gets further into the competition and faces the MLS teams. The CONCACAF Champions League, obviously just like the Champions League but for North America. For this competition, 4 teams qualify for the US, 4 from Mexico, and then 1 for Canada. There is an extra slot for any of these countries if they win the Leagues Cup, which we'll talk about next. And this is where it can get a little bit confusing. So the 4 that qualify for the US are the MLS Cup champions, the Supporter Shield champions, and then the second team of the opposite conference of the champions. So let's say a Western team wins the Supporter Shield, then the second team in the Eastern Conference qualifies to the CONCACAF Champions. And then lastly, the last team to qualify to the CONCACAF Champions League is the champion of the US Opens Cup. The winner of the CONCACAF Champions League is the team that represents CONCACAF in the FIFA Club World Cup. The final competition I'm going to talk about is the Leagues Cup. This is a tournament organized by Liga MX and MLS. Every team from both leagues compete in this. There are 15 groups of 3 teams. The top 2 qualify into the round of 16. Meanwhile, the MLS champion and the Liga MX champion qualify directly to the round of 16. Something kind of weird and quirky about this competition is that in the group stage, if there is a tie, each team gets a point, but they also go to penalties. When they go to penalties, whoever wins that also gets an extra point. So if they tie, one team's going to get 2 points, and then the other's going to get 1. The top 3 teams of this competition qualified to the CONCACAF Champions League, whilst the champion qualifies to the CONCACAF Champions League directly into the round of 16. Now I'm going to talk about some weird rules that the MLS has for its teams. Starting off, we're going to talk about the fact that every team in the MLS is sponsored by Adidas. So every team has the same Adidas shirt, obviously each following their own design, but they're all dressed by the same sponsor. Usually in like the UK, you have Nike too, or Adidas, or Puma, or something else. But no, everything is Adidas for this league. That is why sometimes they're going to release shirts like the New York Red Bulls ones I have behind me, where each team has the same design for their pre-match jerseys, which can be a little underwhelming for some, but for like the 4th of July, which I got this one, it's pretty cool. Another weird thing is that the MLS has a salary cap. Just like any other sport in the US, the MLS implemented this rule. This basically means that the team does not pay the players, but the league does. So how this works is the league gives an estimated amount of money to each team, and then the team distributes that money between the players. So in 2017, the amount given on average for all the teams was $3 million. So then the team decided how to split those $3 million between all the players. Obviously, nowadays the league's been growing and growing and growing, and that money is just going up and up and up. Now everyone has to follow the salary cap except something called the franchise players. These franchise players are excluded from this, and they're chosen by the team. And this means that, for example, Lionel Messi can get more than that salary cap. This is why, for example, when Zlatan, Wayne Rooney, all these players got to the MLS, they got paid over $6 million a year, which is way more than the budget allows. That's why they're called franchise players, and these are funded by the club. The last weird thing that they do in the MLS is the super draft. So something very important for Americans is college sports. And after athletes from these universities graduate, MLS teams get to pick which players to hire or get into their teams. So how this works is the last place team in the MLS gets the first pick on who to get from all the college athletes. The weird thing is sometimes these teams don't even pick the best player, because if they were last, they obviously want to improve for next season, and maybe the best player is a striker and they really need a goalie or a defense. So it can be pretty interesting to see how that rolls out. And then obviously second choice is the second to last, and then third choice is the penultimate team, and the last pick goes to the champion of the MLS. The only exception is that if there's a new team in the MLS that just bought themselves into the league, they get first pick. Some MLS icons that came from the draft include Clint Dempsey. So we all know him, and he came from the draft. So it's always interesting to see if these players actually live up to the hype and are as good for the MLS as they were for their colleges. Finally, we're going to talk about some rivalries. If you're interested, just because of Messi, Inter Miami's rivals are Orlando City. Obviously, they're both from Florida, so that's where it came from. I'm from California, so the derbies here are LA Galaxy and San Jose Earthquakes. Although in the last couple of years, ever since LAFC was founded, LA Galaxy and LAFC have their own derby called El Tráfico, which is basically the traffic because of LA traffic, and it's very intense. I've been to those, and the stadium gets sold out, and the atmosphere is really cool. Yeah, so those are two rivalries you're going to want to look at when the MLS starts. And then some other ones, we have the New York Red Bulls against New York City FC, the Canadian Classico with Toronto FC and Montreal. So yeah, that's everything you probably want or should know about the MLS and the US soccer system before Messi makes his debut in the next couple of weeks. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment. Please like, subscribe, comment, do anything. It helps me a lot. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.